Nietzsche on truth. Do we need illusions? The question of truth, for Friedrich Nietzsche, is not a detached philosophical puzzle, but an intensely human and vital problem. Unlike the traditional philosophical quest that sought to establish truth as an absolute, foundational, and transcendent entity, a stable thing in itself existing independently of the observer, Nietzsche's inquiry focuses less on what truth is, and more on its genealogy, function, and value for life. His work compels us to ask, is the pursuit of naked truth always beneficial, or are certain life-affirming illusions not only necessary, but perhaps even more valuable for the flourishing of human existence and culture? The untimeliness of absolute truth. Nietzsche's most penetrating critique is aimed at the metaphysical notion of truth, particularly the one inherited from Platonism and reinforced by Christian morality. He sees this concept of absolute, eternal truth as a colossal yet convenient error, a human fabrication that became so deeply ingrained it was mistaken for reality itself. In his essay, On Truth and Lie in an Extramoral Sense, Nietzsche famously suggests that what we call truth is essentially a mobile army of metaphors, metonymies, and anthropomorphisms. It is not a mirror reflecting reality, but a system of conventions, a social contract to use words and concepts in a fixed way for the sake of collective safety and stability. We forget the origins of these concepts, their metaphorical birth, and treat them as rigid, objective standards. This forgetting, this deep-seated habit, is what makes us feel secure. The establishment of truth is thus an act of will to power applied to language, turning the fluid, chaotic experience of the world into manageable, comprehensible blocks. For Nietzsche, the universe is fundamentally a domain of becoming, a relentless flux of forces and interpretations, not a fixed state of being. Therefore, any single static truth can only ever be a limited, perspectival interpretation, a necessary simplification that allows a living organism, us, to navigate and survive in an overwhelmingly complex environment. To demand an absolute, non-perspectival truth is to demand something fundamentally anti-life, because life itself demands constant change, valuation, and revaluation. The illusion as a condition for life. This is where the concept of illusion, or aurore, lie, untruth, takes on a profoundly positive, or at least a necessary, significance. Nietzsche argues that certain falsifications are indispensable conditions for existence. If we were forced to confront the full, horrifying, and meaningless chaos of reality, the sheer indifference of the universe, the inevitability of suffering, and the ultimate oblivion of our individual existence, life, particularly cultural and creative life, would become impossible. The optimistic worldview of Socratic thought and the consoling promises of religion are prime examples of these necessary illusions. They function as powerful stimulants and narcotics, making existence tolerable and even desirable by obscuring the deepest, most unsettling truths. They provide meaning and purpose. Illusions of a preordained destiny or a divine plan give direction and dignity to mundane suffering. Stability and cohesion. Illusions of fixed moral laws and absolute values hold societies together, preventing complete nihilism and anarchy. Creative drive. The illusion of the individual's free will and the lasting value of their creation drives the artist, the scientist, and the Übermensch, overman. Without the belief that their effort matters, why strive? Nietzsche suggests that the highest human achievements, great works of art, monumental cultures, and the development of profound philosophical systems have often flourished not despite, but because of a prevailing optimistic or aesthetic illusion. The Greeks of the tragic age, for example, created their magnificent culture by confronting the terrors of existence, Dionysus, and simultaneously veiling them with the beautiful form of art, Apollo. This Apollonian veil is a sublime, life-affirming illusion. The dangerous path of radical honesty. Nietzsche's own project, however, is one of radical honesty and unmasking. He sees the rise of scientific and historical realism, the drive to expose all ancient myths and illusions, as the logical, inevitable culmination of the very will to truth that the Judeo-Christian tradition championed. But this quest for truth ultimately becomes self-undermining, leading directly to nihilism. When all comforting illusions are exposed as errors, and the foundation of metaphysics and morality is revealed as mere human convention, the individual is left with nothing, no objective meaning, inherent value, and transcendent hope. This is the moment of the death of God. The critical dilemma then becomes, if we know we need illusions to live, but we also possess the intellectual integrity to see that they are illusions, what do we do? The last man, Nietzsche's term for the complacent, mediocre person of modern society, chooses to avert his gaze and re-establish petty, comforting truths and distractions. The noble spirit, or the free spirit, in contrast, does not simply replace one comforting illusion with another, nor does it succumb to despair. The art of becoming and the creation of value. The ultimate answer for Nietzsche is found not in abandoning all illusions, but in moving from passively inheriting foundational errors, like absolute morality or Platonic forms, to consciously creating necessary values and perspectives. This process is the core of the Übermensch. Instead of asking, what is true, the free spirit asks, what interpretation, what perspective, what falsification is most life-affirming, most powerful, and most conducive to the highest flourishing of humanity? This shift is key. 1. Truth as utility. Truth is a tool, a specific perspective that proves useful for a specific purpose. We should be willing to employ untruths if they are more generative. 2. The aesthetic justification. Life must be justified aesthetically, rather than morally or metaphysically. We create a beautiful, coherent, and strong meaning for our lives as an artist creates a world on a canvas. It is a supreme, willful illusion, but one that is self-chosen and self-legislating. 3. Honesty and willpower. The free spirit embraces the terrifying truth of nihilism, that there is no objective meaning, but uses the strength gained from this honest confrontation to impose a new meaning. They will their own truths into existence, fully aware that they are creating, not discovering them. This is the most profound and difficult illusion of all. The honest lie that says, I create the value by which I and my culture shall live. In essence, Nietzsche teaches us that we do need illusions, but they must be the illusions we choose, the ones that elevate us rather than the inherited, weakening illusions that deny life in favor of a better world elsewhere. The final triumph is to be able to live and create beyond good and evil, utilizing truth and untruth as mere instruments in the great art of becoming. If this deep dive into Nietzsche's unsettling and radical views on truth and illusion resonated with the philosopher in you, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content that challenges